Hi, I'm Margot Pendleton,
I'm Rachel Richards.
and we're here tonight to talk to you about the Red Brick School ballot issue on August 11th. I would like to clarify something right off the bat. Neither of us are here as members of City Council. We're here as individual citizens supporting the Red Brick issue on the ballot election August 11th. And Rachel is sort of chairman of the, what do you call yourself, Rachel?
Well, I didn't pick the name because it's a little long, but it's the Red Brick Arts and Recreation Center Committee. And we've been trying to spend some time educating people about the benefits of this program and let the public know why so many community members are supporting this and want to see the program move forward.
We've also kind of heard that there's I guess someone said to us the other day that there was a lot of misinformation or non-information out, and we're sitting here tonight to hopefully to answer any questions anybody might have about the Red Brick issue. It is a call-in show, and if you can call anytime you want, we have the phone right here, 925-7784, and we'd be glad to answer any questions you have about the Red Brick School.
Great. Maybe I'll start off by saying why I've been getting so personally involved and why I've put a lot of time into this this summer. I'm primarily working on the issue for two reasons. One is that I feel it's very important to maintain community use on the site, and that as someone who is a mother and has moved here in '78 and looks at how the community has changed, I think it's very important that we do things to maintain community. There's always a lot of discussion about how do we keep Aspen a living and breathing community, and how do we keep our different stratas of our society interactive with each other. And I see maintaining recreation on the site at the Red Brick Gym and having those sort of opportunities for our kids as being a very valuable resource for our community, and well worth the investment at this time. And the second reason I'm involved with it has a little to do with my background in advertising distribution and how I work with the resort economy. I see this very distinctly as where our resort economy is going. I see this as the type of investment we need to make to maintain that competitive edge among other resorts in Colorado. And I see that basically as the foundation of our summer business. Our summer season is our arts economy. And I think we need to strengthen that and to continue to support that.
Well, along the same lines, I guess I will kind of tell you how I've sort of gotten involved in this. I think we've been talking about it for about close to 3 years now.
Since the new school was planned,
Yeah,
I think community started talking about it.
About 3 years ago. It was called, the first group that talked about it was called the In-Town School Sites Committee. And they met for a couple of years, I think, close to a couple of years. I never was really, I would say, gung-ho about buying the Red Brick School. I always figured, you know, the same arguments that I'm hearing now, the city, you know, there's, why take on another project? Do we need it? Blah, 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 you know. The school needs the money, don't deprive them of the money. We've already paid for it twice. But the more I've gotten into it, and the more I've talked to the arts groups, I am completely, and this took a long time of really convincing for me to really understand it, I really believe that this is very needed for this community. You know, something Rachel reminds me a lot about the heritage, our heritage of this town, the Pepke sort of dream, the mind, body, and the spirit. It's just what separates us from the other resort communities in town. And the arts is definitely a big part of it. Something that Rachel said that it really clicked with me too is that, you know, and I refer to other towns, I think of like Keystone Resort or Breckenridge or things like that, when they have, the arts come in for 2 months and they go. And this town, besides being a very sports-oriented town, is very arts-oriented. We have living and breathing arts people here that work and take their kids to school and can teach classes and influence other people. And it's so important that we give them, I think it's become sort of the duty of the public entity to sort of give them that little nudge and head start to really maintain their livelihood in this town. And having them all together makes a very creative atmosphere. And that's where I've come from.
Yeah. The City Council, from my point of view, responded to the demands and the requests from these sort of citizens groups that were coming up with recommendations to try to find a mechanism to keep this community access, this community asset in community use. And it's been a kind of inching towards that goal to be working with the arts groups and trying to find a program that would generate enough revenue to do capital reserves for the building and operating reserves for the building, maintenance of the building, and also deliver to the city a revenue stream to help retire those debts. And so it's kind of been inching along towards that. The Arts Council's been putting a lot of work into this over the past 5 or 6 months, finding tenants and finding out how much space they'd be willing to pay for. That's something that's very important, is that this is paid for space, and the arts groups are going to be paying $12 a square foot plus utilities, and that's just the format of what the program is being looked at now. The arts groups that are potential tenants have good track records in our town and really deserve our support. They've been, at this point, kind of starting to drift out of town. They're heading further and further down valley and end up moving every 2 or 3 years based on their rents being bumped up, and are just really trying to cling to being able to survive. The types of groups are being talked about for the Red Brick and who are interested in space there and are making arrangements to move there should the ballot issue pass are like KJAC's public radio station and the Aspen Film Fest's offices. GrassRoots has found a new home up at the high school.
Yes.
And while that works, they'll be up there. I think that I expect to see a GrassRoots presence kind of filming and working with the people in the building. But GrassRoots has these nice new studios.
It is nice here, John. It's real nice.
Yeah. But KJAX is planning on moving into the building. The Aspen Film Fest will be in the building. Dance Aspen will be in the building. The MAA would like to be able to use any extra space that's not leased out on a year-round basis. They're pretty much just interested in summer use, but they do need more space. The Aspen Ridiculous Theater Company, the Aspen Interactive, the Aspen Yoga Center,
Art Museum.
the Aspen Art Museum would like to have some classroom space and some lecture hall. The ballet school, which teaches all the children the ballet, separate from Dance Aspen, that does they do the Nutcracker we're also familiar with, and yet more. You know, there'll be other tenants as future goes along. There's starting to be more and more inquiries as it becomes more and more of a reality that this center will happen. There's also going to be shared studio space, working studio space, so this will, you know, be very much an interactive type of building. The theater in the park is looking for space there. The Wheeler Opera House is interested in having some scene shop space there. There's really a great deal of need within the arts community for a home, for the stability that this center will offer.
Another aspect of it too, that one of the things that, you know, sort of came out of talking about all this was about the recreation aspect of it. The school, the city recreation programs has been using for years the gym there, and I think lately they've been using the gym at the Yellow Brick School, which is a lot smaller. I'm giving you information as a city council person now because I am, but anybody could get this information, that we had looked at renovating the ice rink, and we had some, you know, very expensive project come in at budget last year, which would involve a 3rd story and would involve the elevator. And we just plain couldn't afford it. We started talking about it, and the idea of using part of the Red Brick School for the rec offices over there and freeing up some of the space in the ice garden. We've also allotted $200,000 to sort of fix up the ice garden and maybe to make it a lot more user-friendly. You know, there's no plans really drawn, but the idea is it'll have an upper kind of viewing area and place to sit for parents, get the snack bar back, fix up the bathrooms, you know, move the pro shop, and leave George's and I think Peter's office there, and move the rest of the rec offices over to one of the office spaces in the Red Brick School, and we'll use the gym quite a bit for the kids' rec programs. Tim Anderson's come up with a lot more programs he can increase in maybe the winter time for the kids to do in town at a fairly low cost. Plus, the arts can use the stages and that area.
Yeah. The ice garden was originally designed with the second floor to be a lobby and a snack bar and a viewing area. And if you've been there earlier, you would have seen that. But it somehow
gone.
became offices 10 or 15 years ago.
It's gone.
It's not a viewing area now. So essentially, we're just talking about restoring that second floor to its original design. It has the large plate glass windows, and the ice rink has a large user group following. There's the kids figure skating, there's the adults figure skating, there's the free public skating times, there's the different hockey clubs, there's the mother puckers, there's the kids hockey programs,
the old farts and old men.
Yeah, the old men's hockey programs. And as it is now, there's really not enough room at the ice rink to serve ice rink and skating related needs. There's no viewing area for people who want to keep warm and just watch their kids skate. There's no snack bar. When we have visiting teams, there's no sort of snack bar area or anything like that. And there's a good possibility that with a snack bar or lobby area back there for the kids' birthday parties and things like that at the ice garden, we might even see some more revenues at the ice garden to help carry its own cost. So when the City Council put together a Blue Ribbon Citizens Capital Committee last fall during our budget hearings to take a look at all the assets that the city had to manage and what were the capital requirements of these assets, and how do we as a new council and a new community kind of start beginning to take control of our asset needs and our capital needs and pick up on infrastructure that had been allowed to decline. One of their first top recommendations was to not spend all this money on an ice garden expansion and to move those offices over to the Red Brick Gymnasium. They're closer to town. You can walk over to sign your kids up for summer day camp. You can walk over to just shoot some basketball in the afternoon. And the program's pretty broad and wide-ranging right now on what's going to happen in that gymnasium, but it's a tremendous opportunity, and I'd like to see all the citizens involved in seeing that as many uses go on in that building as possible. But the Red Brick Gymnasium, to me, is almost an emotional point because I will see this as being the largest public facility left in town, the largest meeting space, a space where we can have holiday bazaars and programs and kids' Halloween parties and the types of things that make a community a community. And the program, the pro forma as is being developed on the building is that the arts groups will be paying rent and those sort of things, but the recreation offices is not going to be paying rent per se. And so that gym should be available at basically a cost of cleanup to user groups. It shouldn't be a very expensive facility to try to have a meeting in or a group activity in. And the alternative to having that type of interaction on the site is literally to see it torn down and become developed into a few large second homes, which might be valuable in certain aspects, but are not really valuable in adding to community fabric and community use on the site or to our arts community and our arts economy. This is a one-time opportunity, and again, it's coming before the public on the ballot in response to so many citizens, either collectively or individually, requesting us, give us a mechanism, give us a way to hold on to the site. Try to find a program that produces some revenue and gives us a chance to do something with this site.
In case anybody forgot, the telephone number is 925-7784, and we would really like to have someone call because we'd oh my God, here's someone called.
Do you want to answer or should I?
Oh, you take the first one.
Okay. Hello, hello.
Oh, hi, Rachel. It's Maggie DeWolf.
Hi, Maggie. This is Maggie DeWolf.
All right. I think it would be very helpful
Is this on the air?
if you and Margot would talk about the once this bond issue has gone through, if it does, how financially the Red Brick will be carried by arts groups. And how will it come out?
Okay, let me translate that question for everybody. Maggie is asking how does the financial program for the building work, and how will the groups be paying for it, and how does that turn out? Is that kind of your question? She's gone. She said yes. Well, we lost her. Here we go. We'll try again.
Yes, that's my question.
Yes, that's your question. Okay. Okay, so we'll try to answer that question. You call us back if we don't.
Okay.
Thanks. Okay, that was her question.
She wants to know how much income is going to come in from the red brick school.
Yeah, and what is being estimated for those sort of things.
Okay.
Would you like to start?
Well, rental income for the building, we've estimated about $176,000, which is based on reimbursing the building for the rental of the space and reimbursing the building for maintenance, which is done on how many square feet of you're using. And that's also based on a 5% vacancy rate.
Yeah.
Also, the users will be reimbursing the city for the utilities.
Yeah.
And I think that this would come up to around, we don't know what the utilities are going to be, the maintenance costs, and we've estimated them because we're going to replace a lot of things when we do the building. The total income from the building at a 5% vacancy rate should run about $200,000 a year.
Yeah. The City Council, when it began looking at this question and trying to develop pro formas for it last year, talked to bond counsel, and at the time the estimated bond cost to carry this for a 15-year period were going to be at about $407,000 a year. And the $407,000 a year figure has been talked about quite a bit for a 15-year carrying period. The good news is that the interest rates on bonds have gone down significantly. I think the bonds are at a 10-year low right now. So financing a civic project like this could never be cheaper. And the types of rates that we've been referred to by Steve Jeffers, who's our bond counsel, range at about $365,000 a year tops to finance this. Again, it will matter, the exact number will be a matter of locking into an exact rate, same with getting a mortgage on a house. But we're looking at the carrying cost of the project being at about $365,000 a year. The revenue from the building should be, I guess, ranging between $175,000 to $200,000 a year. From the operating revenue of the building, we will be subtracting the maintenance of the building and capital reserve and set it up with a healthy operating reserve fund and those sort of things to keep the building in good repair and keep the building in good maintenance. But there still should be a revenue stream from the building of about $90,000 towards retiring those bonds. So the cost to the community to carry those bonds beyond the revenue to the of the building should be about $270,000 or $260,000 a year.
If you take away the 90 or 95.
Right, right. And to me, it's just a tremendous value. It's a very good use of the money. Capital acquisition is never cheap. The site will never be cheaper. The bond rates will never be lower. And it is truly an investment in ourselves. And it's an investment in saying these are the type of assets that make Aspen unique and attractive as a community. These are the types of things we all moved here for. And we're willing to invest in those sort of things. It's a very good use of the money.
Good question, Maggie.
Good question, Maggie.
And we'll take another one, 925-7784.
Yeah, great. While we're waiting for another phone call, I was just going to pass on a couple things that I've seen in the papers lately. And actually, in today's Wednesday, July 29th, Denver Post, Colorado Living is a huge article on the Writers' Conference and what the Writers' Conference has meant to our summer economy in Aspen and what an enjoyable season it is, and how budding writers from all across the United States come here from June, July, August, and September. And these are the type of people who write us up in their hometown newspapers and write us up in their magazines. Mm-hmm. And the caption beneath the picture is inspiring, Aspen backdrop, invigorating for writers. I think this is classic of the type of economy our community is moving to. And as we move towards the arts economy, we see us stabilizing between winter ski season and no business in the summer. And if we all think back about 10 years ago, it was hard to make ends meet in the summer. It was hard to keep employees on. It was hard for people to make their mortgages. And there's been a dedicated effort on behalf of this community to stabilize that and to bring in some summer economy. And frankly, we're the envy of the state. Every other community out there is trying to copy our arts programs to try to build their economy.
Oh, hi. I had a question.
Yes, shoot.
This is Dottie Kelleher, and I've been talking to some people who
Hi, Dottie.
who are opposed to this.
Uh-huh.
And one of the arguments I've heard is that it's just a toe in the door for more bureaucracy, and that within a few years it will be city offices. And
Toe in the door for more bureaucracy.
Wait a minute, I haven't
Oh,
finished
okay.
asking my question.
Okay, I'm just writing it down.
My question is, what guarantees do we as citizens and voters have that the use will remain what we're voting for on the 11th, that it will
Good
not
question.
switch uses a few years down the road?
Okay.
Thank you. I'll hang up.
Okay, that was Dottie Kelleher on the phone, and what she's hearing about the red brick sort of word on the street is that this is just a shoe-in or toe-in, I think this is the term she used, for another bureaucratic move on part of the city, and in a few years, if this doesn't make it, it'll just be city offices.
Yeah. Well, do you want to, I can respond to that.
You can respond to that. I mean,
Yeah.
who knows?
I think the intention has been very clear on behalf of the City Council and the citizens groups who are working on this, that the intention is to create a recreation center and a arts facility for the arts and nonprofits. As I look at this, there currently is undergoing a major capital project at City Hall, renovating the City Hall offices to be very usable, very user-friendly, and to be the type of thing that will accommodate the existing city governments and the environmental health department and all the different departments that serve the community. There also is an effort, and right now if you go to City Hall, it's very exciting to see this because they're adding a basement to that building. I was never aware that you could add a basement to an existing 3-story, 100-year-old brick building, but that's what we're doing, and the work is almost complete. And that's going to become storage for a lot of the stuff that's currently blocking office spaces and things like that. This was, again, another recommendation from the Blue Ribbon Capital Committee, and that was to make the building workable and safe and you know, get rid of some of the storage problems, get the offices back to being offices. Don't look for a new site for City Hall. Don't look to spend money there. Just fix up the existing building. That's what we've been doing. The money that's financing that has been saved and accrued over the past 3 or 4 years. I think Carol O'Dowd started
a fund for
that sort of thing. So this has been something that the city has not had to bond for, and yet makes City Hall far more usable. I think if you walk in, you'll be amazed that construction's still going on, but the corridors are now straight and right angles. They're not a maze going through things. There's not maze.
You don't
little
need a map to
offices.
find the city
You don't need a map to find your way through. And so the city is making City Hall its home. I don't think there's any intention to ever see any city offices at any level moving into the red brick building other than the recreation offices, which are copacetic and work in tandem with the red brick gym.
Dottie, it's really our intention for this to be an arts center and recreation center. We can't say what future councils will do.
Well, I think it's up to the political will of the people at the time to keep those sort of
political
things
will,
forever.
but the whole idea about this whole project is it's going to be a partnership. The city's not just doing it for the arts groups. This is going to be a partnership here. We're asking the arts groups to do a part. We're not hiring extra staff to maintain the building. We're not hiring guys to cut the lawn. We're not putting brand new carpet in there and paint. We're doing a bare minimum. We're fixing it up for safety, for fire, code, and to get rid of the asbestos problem and the ventilation problems there. We are trying our darndest, I gotta tell you, to make this a win-win situation for the town and everybody, and we're not doing, the city does not want to do it for some group that is not going to pick up part of the ball and contribute.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to make it work.
Yeah. The program as it's been developed is that the city will enter into a management agreement or master lease or some sort of format like that with the tenant groups. And the city will not be doing the management of the building. It's not going to be a city management situation. Since its very inception as a concept, when we began talking about that during budget hearings, it was a self-management situation for the tenants, that they could take responsibility for their building. And the contract that we're talking about setting up with the management contract would have some built-in incentives for them to save money. Every time they save money on the management group, it will accrue to the capital fund of the building. And the capital fund of the building will be when they are able to get special effects and special equipment for the arts needs. So we're trying to set up very distinctly with those sort of incentives in place for the arts groups to do self-management. and that sort of thing. I've heard that rumor before, and I hear that repeated again and again. And I think there's a couple of ways to respond, and one of the things is I don't think you can have the services that this community expects operating out of a handbag. And you know, the rec offices administer a number of programs. They administer the Moore Pool. They take care of arranging the scheduling of the lacrosse and the
summer
rugby
hockey
and,
camps and all that stuff.
the volleyball and all the uses on the different playing fields. And they manage the kids programs, the tennis and the sailing and the day camp and the t-ball and the flag football and all these things. And you can't really manage those sort of things or take care of those activities or give people the service they deserve working out of a file cabinet and a shoebox. Nobody's talking about elaborate offices for the recreation department. And within City Hall, I think there's been every effort made at this time to economize and to reduce space and to make City Hall our permanent home. More questions. This is exciting. This is getting really fun. Either that or I'll go back to more art stuff.
She has a book here she can read too.
Yeah. Good. It worked.
It worked. She just wanted to read.
my
You take
turn
that.
here.
Your turn.
GrassRoots, may I help you?
Yeah, Rachel, this is Maggie DeWolf again.
Maggie DeWolf again.
Listen, is there any
has lots of
thought
questions.
of giving the administration of the building to the Arts Council to administer? Is that a possibility?
Yeah. Maggie's question, is there any thoughts of giving the administration of the building to the Arts Council?
That's it.
Okay.
I'm going to hang up.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bye. The city's been working with the Arts Council right now, and I think it's the intention to enter into a management agreement with the Arts Council, or perhaps set up a separate subgroup of the Arts Council. The Arts Council has been working with a management group within their larger membership, because a lot of their other members are not going to be tenants, but are supporters of the project as a whole. So the governance and management group that's been working on this include Bob Camp and Julia Marshall and Michael Gassman and Jeff Bentley and Robert Harth, and I think one or two other people, I can't remember exactly, as to what exact form this should take. And right now there's basically a lot of language clarification on the expectations and how to have an equity in risk sharing so that the tenants are responsible for a bottom line on the building, a bottom line on the revenue source. There's a discussion that perhaps after the tenants are in the building and the tenants are understanding how it's operating, that they could become more of the management group working with the Arts Council. So the intention has been to enter into a management agreement with the Arts Council, but that is not finalized yet. In a lot of senses, it can't be finalized till after the election. And recently, Mary Apple left the Arts Council to go back to Boulder and to pursue some educational opportunities. So it gives the Arts Council a very unique situation to pick their next director based on the outcome of this vote. And if they need someone who's only a liaison for arts and an umbrella organization for arts, that's what they'll be looking for. But if they need somebody who's very distinctly skilled in property management, that's what they'll be looking for. And so there's a real opportunity here with that group.
There may be a possibility that they have two part-time people or something, one in property management, one in fundraising and securing for the arts. The other thing is that the city wants to go through a one-year contract and sort of
see how it works
get
out.
the kinks out, see how it works, see what kind of revenue is coming in. And again, I can't emphasize too much that the empowering part that we're trying to create with the Arts Council and the arts groups, to give them incentives to do certain things so they can get some, there's a amount of cash they have to give to the city and amount of cash they have to put in reserves, they have to pay their debts. Anything above and beyond that, they can use. They can use to do
capital,
do what they want. They can use to, if they have to move a wall, if they have to paper paint, if they want to landscape, if they want to put swings, whatever.
Yeah.
It's incentive for them to get creative and to watch costs rather than the city doing it and just for someone to open the door and come in, shut it, and leave at night. And hopefully that is the sort of what I call the new way of doing things, and that's going to make it change. Creative government.
To work with groups. It is a type of private-public partnership. Another, can't be understated that these tenants will be signing leases.
Hello?
First, last, security, deposit.
Yes, it is.
And have a track record with existing landlords.
So the former playground behind the gym.
Okay, what's your question? Who's this?
This is Bill Greenwood.
Hi, Bill. Bill Greenwood?
There used to be playground equipment behind the Red Brick School.
Mm-hmm.
And
Now the audience can
when
hear the question through the phone line.
about the time or when the movie company leased it, all that was taken down or taken away, and it's never come back. I wondered if this purchase goes through, if any of that equipment will be put back, and also if the gym, which is in really good shape, will be available for community use, and if so, who will control that?
Okay,
I'm going to hang up now, Bill, and I'll repeat.
repeat your question to Rachel.
All right, thanks.
Bill Greenwood is calling. He wants to know if the gym is going to be used for community use. And I guess when the movie guys were there this fall or this winter, there was a bunch of playground equipment. Now this one I don't know, out back, and it's been moved and it's not been put back. That I don't know about. I would presume that it got moved and never got moved back.
Yeah.
And it's probably stored in there. As far as
Actually, I'm not sure if it didn't get moved up
To
to
the
the
yellow-
new playground.
it might have gotten moved up to the new playground.
But I'm not sure. I know that there has been ongoing construction of playground at the new school.
I haven't
the new
seen
middle
it there.
school.
We could
No,
look
I
out
don't
the
know
we could
that,
look
Bill,
out the
either.
door.
Yeah, we can run out and look. I'm not sure about the playground equipment there.
Bill, in your answer to the playground, to the gym's use, we were just talking about that. The idea of the gym is for use. It's sort of, we're kind of have the recreation department on the gym end and the arts on the office ends, except for one office which the recreational department will use. You have the sort of, if I draw you a picture, it's like this, and then there's an office here the rec department would use. The idea behind this is that giving the city recreation program a place to
A home base.
home base to do gymnastic classes, play basketball. Tim Anderson's had requests for maybe putting mats down for some wrestling classes. He's thinking of maybe doing, getting the Aikido people to try to teach, not compete with the other people in town, but try to teach
Bring their
class
programs
programs in
in.
there. There's a stage, and then there's some bathrooms downstairs, and there's another room behind it down underneath the stage would be perfect for weights. For a place for kids to come lift weights, and show them how to do it properly. I'm sure, this is our thoughts of what's going to be. And when it's not in use, we're perfectly willing to have the arts groups do practice performances there, set up stages. We want the thing to be in the public use and used all the time. My idea is to see it used, all day long. I can't say 24 hours a day because
All
hopefully
day
it won't
long.
be bringing a lot of people into the neighborhood, but in the, say, working hours or
Yeah.
normal hours.
The gym to me is just again a huge community asset for all sorts of programs to form there and to happen there. Right now the city summer day camp is programmed to end 2 weeks before school starts, and that's
Yeah.
a continuing debate with not debate but an issue. It's a continuing problem because right now the city rec program uses the school district's facilities, and they need the last 2 weeks of summer to get their buildings ready for school. And so we're always left without a home for the day camp for the last 2 weeks, and the parents who depend on that program really count on that. So there's a possibility we'd have some space in there for that during those 2 weeks, and for rainy day programs and that sort of thing. It's really wide open. It's going to be a center that the amount of neighborhood involvement, community involvement is going to determine its uses. I see it as kind of becoming an alternative to happy hour on Fridays, where you can go over to the gym and play a little pickup.
John's looking real funny.
But, to play some pickup basketball and to see some neighborhood things happen in that area of town. And Margot did raise an issue as she was talking about the impact on the neighborhood and the impact on the surrounding neighborhoods. After the bond issue succeeds, there's going to be a series of public rezoning hearings in order to address the neighborhood concerns and address the usage and address the parking and those sort of things. And those will be through both the Planning and Zoning Commission and then before the City and Council. So I think that there's a lot of opportunities to give back to the neighborhood there and make sure that the impacts are not too severe. In particular, my personal thought on this, and I have no idea how it will end up occurring as it goes through P&Z, but I like the way that that's set off for a pedestrian walk to the music tent in the summer. And I'd like to see that become a pedestrian walk in the winter as well, and kind of a year-round type of use, and feel that the users of the building would have to be using the parking garage, except for a little loading and unloading down by the Givens Institute. And so I think that there's a lot of ways that we can work on that.
We worked it out with the television company was there. If you set some ground rules and tell people that's the way it's going to be, and we get well, okay, you answer that one,
Okay.
and hopefully that'll
Hello?
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
Hi.
This is Nick DeWolf.
Good for you. Hi, Rachel.
Thank God for
Hi,
Nick and
Nick.
Maggie.
Now, all our viewers can hear you, Nick, so what is your question?
No swearing, huh?
Yeah, no swearing.
Well, it's, I'm not sure I want to put it as a question, more like a suggestion.
A
Is that
suggestion.
Okay? And then you all can talk about it?
Okay.
Essentially, like the Wheeler, which has an independent body that controls what's done with it,
Yes.
what prices it sets and so on, so the city council doesn't have to take the blame, as it were. I strongly feel that the Red Brick should have an organization, and I know Maggie advocated the Arts Council, which I would advocate, but even if it weren't the Arts Council, there should be a group who help us taxpayers
Be a
make
long
certain
suggestion.
that building just doesn't turn into a city hall annex.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Can I repeat your question to Margot so she knows?
do.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Nick. Bye.
Nick was advocating that we try to set up a separate governing board for the Red Brick, the same way the Wheeler Opera House has a separate governing board, to assure that the taxpayers, that the use of the buildings are the types of uses we're talking about now, and so that they feel very comfortable with that. I think that's a very exciting opportunity as well. And again, we have been working with the Arts Council, and they kind of developed a criteria, and it was a list of about 10 or 12 items to talk
I have
about how to select future tenants and how to line up a waiting list. And the type of things they were talking about are, interaction in the community and community serving programs, and let's see, I think Margot
there's a
has it
list of
here.
them here. You want to read them off
okay.
there?
Tenants will be selected pursuant to standards, considerations, and priorities to be agreed upon. And this is conceptual, so these are not as fully defined, but arts and artists, other community uses, the compatibility between uses, the financial ability of the groups to pay their rent, traffic generation, the educational orientation of the groups, that they are creative and actual hands-on and active versus administration, tenants improvements to be made, their community service, the consistency with zoning, the chronological time that they've been on the wait list and been involved with the center, other tenant input, that sort of thing. So those are the types of things we're looking at for a management situation and management arrangement.
Nick, I don't think that, we haven't shut the door on any, kind of permanent agreements. I mean, all of us are really open to trying to make this thing work and whatever
Yeah.
it takes. So
Yeah.
that is a good suggestion, and I'm sure we'll pass it on.
Yeah, there's a lot of very good, solid ways to approach the management of the building. In another sense, to form a nonprofit that would be one member from the Arts Council, one member elected by the tenants as a tenants group, one member who's a recreationist aspect, one citizen at large, and perhaps a council designee or something like that. You could have a 5-person nonprofit that would work with it as well.
Yeah.
But
Once again, our number is 925-7784.
yeah. Well, if we have a second in between phone calls, I'd like to pull out another prop and talk for a minute about this book that I've been reading, Megatrends 2000, and it's by 10 New Directions for the 1990s by John Nesbitt and Patricia Aberdeen. It has a very interesting chapter in it called The Renaissance of the Arts. And of the 10 directions that they say the United States is moving in, it talks very much about the renaissance of the arts and how much of a multiplier effect the arts have in their local community and how valuable Americans value arts. I'll give you a quote in a minute after this phone call.
Good evening.
Hello.
Hello.
I've heard a lot of reasons for the red brick school building, but tell me in hard dollars how this is going to happen and how it's going to be paid for.
Okay.
Thank you, and I'll be listening.
Okay.
This gentleman would like to know, in hard dollars, cold cash, how's this thing going to be paid for? Well, to start out with, we set a mill levy last fall during our 1992 budget hearings. We estimated at buying the red brick school and renovating it, we estimated bonding, not bonding, for setting the mill levy to generate $3.6 million.
Wait, we set the mill levy to be able to carry a bond payment
Of $3.6
to carry a $3.6
million, of which the bond payment would be about estimated at $407,000 a year. The mill levy was set, actually the mill levy is the same as it was the year before, but what has happened is the property values have been assessed higher. So basically, I think the figure is something like your property,
Yeah.
the mill levy is still 41 mills that was set.
Or 6.1 or something.
Yeah, I think it's that. And your taxes were going to go up about 44% because of the reassessment of your property. I kind of the amount of mill that is dedicated to the red brick, kind of in a budgetary thing, is 1 mill. And to figure this out, I was kind of trying to, it amounts to a $14 a year per $100,000 of valuation. We've already been set, the mill levy is all set. If you vote yes on the red brick, your taxes will not go up again for the red brick.
Mhm.
It's already been set.
Yeah.
So
When council was looking at setting the mill levy last fall, and we knew there was a property revaluation, and we knew that by keeping the mill levy at the same level, it would truly be a tax increase. And I think we acknowledge that as often and as loudly as we can, but we continue to get hit that we were doing some sort of windfall thing. And it was very clearly and distinctly a tax increase. And the increase was to cover 2 capital projects, which we said would go to the electorate for a vote later the year when all the details were worked out, and that is basically what is occurring now. We also held off on setting that mill levy for about an extra month. We set it the very last date we could by state constitution to allow the Citizens Committee, the Blue Ribbon Capital Committee, which it was a nonpartisan, independent committee with people ranging from the far right and the far left, and all sorts of financial experience or business experience and real estate experience, to give us their recommendations. And we took their recommendations into heart instead of just kind of doing this in council chambers. And their recommendations were to purchase the red brick building and bond for it in the future, because those would be the users and the community members who would be benefiting from it, and also to look at the city maintenance facility and put a bond issue before the public for the city maintenance facility. And if anybody has been under Sneaky Lane and looked at the old hydropower plant, they will see that that facility truly needs replacing as well. Their recommendations were to replace it on the same site and to rebuild it on the same site and not spend a couple $1 million going out to find a new site for the maintenance facility, and that's a recommendation we're following through with as well. The money that the mill generated in 1992 is basically right now paying for the architectural and the design work to get the to get the maintenance facility to a state at which it's a presentable plan and we can go to the voters and say, this is what your money will buy you. And the mill, that was the money that came from the red brick portion of that, some of that is going to making the project less expensive. Some of that is currently going so that we bond for less, so that we stay within that $3.6 million range, and has also gone to a couple other capital needs of the city at this time. I think primarily it tracks with the Centennial sidewalk, but I could be mistaken with that.
I'm wondering if you're answering the guy's question. I think he wants to know how it's going to affect him.
Okay.
And I'm saying that, we are bonding $3.6 million. 2.6 will go straight to the school. 1 million will go to renovating the red brick building. The city will take out a bond for the maximum of 15 years, I think.
Yeah. And
we had budgeted paying $407,000 a year. Of that money, we are renting the arts groups. We have a performer that says that we should be getting $200,000 from the arts groups.
As a gross income.
Gross income. They have to pay for.
95.
They have to pay for a kind of a maintenance fund,
Capital
utilities,
reserves.
And they have to pay a capital reserve. And anything left over, I think around $95,000 will go to dropping the debt down.
Yeah.
I wanted to figure out what my taxes, Rachel and I were sitting here talking just before we started here. I live in a place up around Hunter Creek, and it's valued at $200,000. The one mill that I'll be paying for the red brick school is about $14 per $100,000 valuation, which my contribution in my taxes to the red brick school would be $28 a year, or $2.33 a month. Okay, we still have 5.401 mills on the city part of your tax bill, but one of those mills will be for the red brick school, and that would be, I mean, I don't know if that doesn't answer your question. I hope you please call back.
Yeah, yeah. The recap on that, this is a sports program. We'll do a recap, play-by-play. The bond payments are estimated to be about $365,000 a year based on current interest rates. When we first talked about the project, they were a good $45,000, $50,000 higher. They're now at about $365,000 a year to buy the site over and renovate the building over 15 years. The income stream from the building after the building expenses and after the tenant expenses for management and capital reserves should be $95,000. So that $365,000 number, based on locking in the interest rate minus the revenue stream from the building, will be the amount that the taxpayers are going to be carrying to maintain this site in community use. I think a real important aspect of this to look at is that the money we're paying for this site is going to be returning to the school district, is going to be returning to our children and to our children's education. In a lot of ways, the school district has been working with us. They understood and have had input that there is a real community interest in maintaining this site. I think their ballot question, when they went to bond, had an overwhelming response to retain the site. And they're very interested in trying to do that. And they've given us as fair a price as they can give us based on their obligations to the children's education and their basically their handicap with the State Financing Act for Education. We've all been reading a lot about it, and the more wealthy districts like Pickens County are really being hurt by the State Finance Act on education. So they gave us about a fair a price as they could on that building and that site. And you know, this is very distinctly a investment in real estate, a very sound piece of real estate that has its own value and holds its own value. We can't we can't really expect the school district to donate a $3 million asset to the city and to the arts groups, in the same sense that the city could not donate $3 million to the school district. We try to work together. We work out a lot of partnerships, and this is certainly one of those. And it's just a one-time opportunity for us as the community to say, this is the type of thing that makes us unique, and we want to spend our money on. The alternative, once again, the school district's in that bind. They need the money for debt retirement of their own. They would be forced to sell the property for development. It would probably end up being second home, high-end, vacant properties that really don't serve the community in any way. And they've been trying to work with us to find a way to have this help serve the community as well as help the school district. You were going to say?
I was going to tell you about, you know, the thing because I worked on the school board negotiations, and the school board, you know, they plain need the money. That State Finance Act that was passed, I think, 2 or 3 years ago, does not allow the school board to raise its operating budget. You can do it one time, you can raise it 7%, but you better make darn sure that this is the time you want to do it. So what I guess what they, and if your expenses keep going up and you can't raise your operating budget, therefore you cut. Mm-hmm. And what do you cut? Teachers, programs, and stuff.
Yeah, kids' arts programs.
And they have been, I believe, raiding some of their capital fund in order to keep up with the operating expenses. So that's been depleted. Mm-hmm. And by doing this for the Red Brick School, we'll put $2.6 million cash in their coffers right then a couple of months. Yeah. And if they were to go through the scenario of developing 6 homes, it may be 2 years before they see any of this money.
Yeah. We've been doing, good morning.
Your turn.
Hello?
Oh, hi, this is Dottie Kelleher again.
Dottie Kelleher? Okay.
Kelleher is the name.
Okay.
I guess in a way I'm playing devil's advocate, but I have heard people
Certainly, do
who
that.
are opposed to this, and one of the things I heard was that the 900,000 to $1 million to bring this building up to code is totally unrealistic. There's asbestos, and I wondered how. One of my questions was, how had that figure been arrived at, that it would take $1 million to bring the building, into
Okay.
whatever you wanted?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention something else, and the only reason I mention it is because I think there's some very wealthy heavy hitters opposed to this, and I myself, I asked about guarantees that this would stay, for what we're talking about, and you and Margot talked about intention. And to me, intention doesn't respond to my question about guarantees. We're moving along with talk about arts councils and who's going to manage it. But I have no idea how the community feels about this, just from the things I've heard. But I just think we need some pretty tight answers.
Okay. Well, let me repeat your question to Margot, and I'll repeat the first question, and then we'll go to the second half.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you for calling.
Dottie wanted to know, how were the numbers derived at for the renovation costs, the $1 million that we're looking to put into the building? And
I can answer that.
yeah, I think Margot spent more time on that issue than I did.
I spent a lot of time crawling around the red brick school with asbestos gurus from and members, because I didn't know what I wanted to see firsthand what was going on.
I remember this was one of Margot's big reservations, was what kind of condition is that building in, and can we really get it
I was
fixed up?
convinced that we were getting in way over our heads with this renovation thing because of this asbestos thing. Well, what I found out is that most of the asbestos is locating in the bottom of the building and in the boiler room. And it's a one-level building. There's no asbestos in the walls. There's some in the floor tiles, but most of it is wrapped around the plumbing pipes, which are antique pipes. And every time you have to fix one of those pipes, it's like looking for a needle in a haystack. It's the water and sewer that run underneath the building, and they are very, very, very old and break all the time. So there's holes all over the floor where people have gone down, dug out the holes, and fixed them. And supposedly you have to bring the guys in the white suits in to do this. The boiler room is loaded with asbestos. There's also asbestos in the ceiling, in the roof that was used with this whatever compound they used back when. I think what we plan to do is, one thing, we need a new roof. If you notice the building, it's covered with plastic, it leaks like a sieve. It's starting to erode some of the bricks on the top. We're going to seal off the boiler room and take the plumbing and bring the plumbing up onto the roof, plumb down through the ceiling, and therefore what we're actually doing is storage. The site is
Capping.
on-site storage for the asbestos.
It's going to be capped
So
off.
if
which
we
is-
had to take it out and clean it up, we'd have to pack it off in crates, ship it to God knows where. Right now we're doing on-site storage. We just seal off the bottom floor. We're going to put new roof on. We're going to put the plumbing fixtures or whatever, the pipes, the heating stuff, all on top of the roof, so we'll come down this way through the ceilings. Hopefully the bathrooms and the plumbing, we could reroute all the plumbing outside the building and run it back into they only have 2 bathrooms to go across here. The other thing is the safety and fire hazards. We have to change doors around because they don't meet code. We're going to try to fix some of the electrical problems up. We are going to
Little energy
windows,
efficiency.
energy efficiency things. Then one of the kind of controversies about the thing is, once we make it energy efficient, we capture the radon. So we have to get a ventilation system in here to get the air
the
moving
fans.
out. So all this stuff costs. These are big ticket items, and we've added them up.
How did the estimates get derived at?
Well, we had a number. We had the members of staff went out and picked 2 or 3 reputable contractors, asked them what it would take to do this, and took an average of the prices and came up with them.
Yeah.
Well, we had 3 or 4 roofing contractors give us a price. Go up in the roof, what it was going to take. Plumbing, the sealing off, the rerouting of the plumbing, energy efficient people, and I think that's about it.
Yeah.
But it does mount up. We're not going to recarpet. We're not going to paint. We're not going to do
No
luxury
marble
labs.
vanities for
You
those
know,
arts
we're not
groups.
going to make all these wonderful things. So that's about where the $1 million, and it does add up. Believe me, it's amazing. It was $1.6 million, and we cut some down.
Yeah. The other part of Dottie's question was back to the reassurances that this would not become bureaucratic well, she didn't use the term bureaucratic, but not be offices for city government or government
Didn't
in
she
any
just ask that
in
one?
any form. Yeah, and her point was, and it's very valid, is that we both spoke about in terms of intention and what can we do to guarantee that this can never happen. I approach that from two different ways. One is that I feel that the political will that is going to see that this becomes a community center will also be the political will that makes sure that no $500 a month city council person changes that direction. And I've seen the political process work awfully well. It would probably take one person standing in front of the post office about a day to put this on the ballot for special election to kick the city offices back out if anybody should dare do such a thing like that. The ballot language is for arts, nonprofits, and other community uses. I really can't say what the community in the year 2000 will do, and the year 2005, I cannot bind them either. We've looked at that, and we've tried to talk about that. It's impossible for us to bind them. And I think that in looking at making sure the building does carry its own cost, it's important that there's some flexibility in there. If there's a vacancy that occurs for a long period of time and there's a nonprofit who's not truly in arts, I think that the arts groups need to look at how to make the building work. And so we've tried to build some flexibility in there. And I think that we've taken the first step and we've acted very much in good faith with the public, and we've ratified the principles that the Arts Council has brought forward to us regarding tenant selection. And basically, city offices will not meet the criteria for tenant selection. And if we've turned the property over to nonprofit for self-management, we're not going to be able to tell that nonprofit that city offices have to move in or something like that. The nonprofit is going to be in charge of tenant selection and signing the leases with those tenants, and very distinctly have a set up criteria for who those tenants can be, and those tenants are not going to be able to jump in. We only have a couple minutes left. Yeah. I want to make one last point. We've been talking a lot about property tax and the property tax cost to carry this building. I think it's really important to stress that Aspen is a sales tax-based economy, and that property taxes are probably less than 10% of our budget as a city. We are sales tax-based, and we need to work to keep our sales tax dollars high, and that means being competitive as a resort. And I don't think we can always expect the ski company to make those investments to be competitive as a resort. By investing in what already works, investing in what we know what works, is how we keep those sales tax dollars high. And high sales tax dollars translate into more money for the 6-penny open space fund, more money for the 1-penny transportation fund, and more money for the 0.45 affordable housing and daycare fund, as well as general fund revenues. So if we see a good, strong growth and continued sustained economy with our sales tax dollars, we could even lessen the dependence on property taxes to carry this thing. I think that's the main reason I'm interested in seeing this move forward.
Yes.
Thanks for your time, and feel free to call us. We're about done. But,
okay. Well,
thanks.
Thanks for listening to us. Thanks for calling in. I urge you to, if you don't know a lot about this issue, find out about it. Yeah. We will having stuff in the papers. We will be having.
Try to. You send those contributions.
Or you can call either one of us at home. We're in the phone book.
Yeah.
And encourage you to vote yes on November 11th.
August 11th.
I mean, August 11th. God. Margot.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. We're both a little camera shy. We're a little nervous. But thanks for your time. Feel free to call us at home.